Good morning and welcome back to Kivli Kids Cozy Corner. It is Thursday already, April 30th, last day of April. Holy moly. Anyway, I'm going to get right to this because we were right in the middle of the Bruce Bogtrotter chapter. I love this chapter. Anyway, so Bruce has just gotten busted for eating the cake and he wasn't going to admit it and he totally blew it. So, let's see. Bruce just complimented the cook. The cake, said the cake was very good. There you are, Cook, the Trunchbull cried. Bogtrotter here likes your cake. He adores your cake. Do you have any more of your cake you could give him? I do indeed, the cook said. She seemed to have learned her lines by heart. Then go and get it and bring a knife to cut it with. The cook disappeared. Almost at once she was back again, staggering under the weight of an enormously round cake on a china platter. The cake was a full 18 inches in diameter, so a ruler, 6 more inches. Here's poor little scrawny Cook with that big old cake. So 18 inches in diameter, and it was covered with dark brown chocolate icing. Put it on the table, the Trunchbull said. There was a small table center stage with a chair behind it. The cook placed the cake carefully on the table. Sit down, Bogtrotter, the Trunchbull said. Sit there. The boy moved cautiously to the table and sat down. He stared at the gigantic cake. There you are, Bogtrotter, the Trunchbull said. Once again, her voice became soft, persuasive, even gentle. It's all for you. Every bit of it. As you enjoyed that slice you had yesterday so very much, I ordered Cook to bake you an extra large one all for yourself. Well, thank you, the boy said, bemused. Oh, thank Cook, not me, the Trunchbull said. Thank you, Cook, the boy said. The cook stood there like a shriveled bootlace, tight-lipped, disapproving. She looked as though her mouth was full of lemon juice. Come on, then, the Trunchbull said. Why don't you cut yourself a nice, thick slice and try it? What, now? The boy asked cautiously. He knew there was a catch in this somewhere, but he wasn't sure where. Can I take it home instead? He asked. Oh, that would be impolite, the Trunchbull said, with a crafty grin. You must show Cookie here how grateful you are for all the trouble she's taken. The boy didn't move. Get on with it, the Trunchbull said. Cut a slice. Taste it. We haven't got all day. The boy picked up the knife and was about to cut into the cake when he stopped. He stared at the cake, looked up at the Trunchbull, then at the tall, stringy cook, with her lemon-juice mouth. All the children in the hall were watching tensely, waiting for something to happen. They felt certain it must. The Trunchbull was not a person who would give someone a whole chocolate cake to eat just out of kindness. Many were guessing that it had been filled with pepper or castor oil or some other foul-tasting substance that would make the boy violently sick. It might even be arsenic and he would be dead in 10 seconds flat. Or perhaps it was booby-trapped cake, like the whole thing would just blow up at any moment as soon as it was cut, taking Bruce Bogtrotter with it. No one in the school put it past the Trunchbull to do any of those things. I don't want to eat it, the boy said. Taste it, you little brat, the Trunchbull said. You're insulting the cook. Very gingerly, the boy began to cut a thin slice of the very vast cake. Then he levered the slice out. Then he put the knife and took the sticky thing in his fingers and started very slowly to eat it. It's good, isn't it? The Trunchbull asked. Very good, the boy said, chewing and swallowing. He finished the slice. Have another, the Trunchbull said. Oh, that's enough, thank you, the boy murmured. I said, have another, the Trunchbull said, in an altogether sharper edge to her voice. Eat another slice. Do as you're told. Suddenly, the Trunchbull exploded. Eat, she said, banging her thigh with the riding crop. If I tell you to eat, you will eat. You wanted cake, you stole cake, now you've got cake. What's more, you're going to eat it. You do not leave this platform, and nobody leaves this hall until you have eaten the entire cake that is sitting there in front of you. Do I make myself clear, Bogtrotter? Do you get my meaning? The boy looked at the Trunchbull, then he looked down at the enormous cake. Eat, 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 she said. Very slowly, the boy cut himself another slice and began to eat it. Matilda was fascinated. "Do you think he can do it?" she whispered to Lavender. "No," Lavender whispered back. "It's impossible. He'll be sick before he's halfway through." The boy kept going. When he had finished the second slice, he looked at the Trunchbull, hesitating. "Eat," she shouted. "Greedy little thieves who like to eat cake must have cake. Eat faster, boy, eat faster. We don't want to be here all day. And don't stop like you're doing now. The next time you stop before it's all finished, you'll go straight to the chokey, and I shall lock the door and throw the key down the well." The boy cut a third slice and started to eat. He finished this one quicker than the other two, and when he was done, he immediately picked up the knife and cut the next slice. In some peculiar way, he seemed to be getting into his stride. Matilda, watching closely, saw no signs of distress in the boy yet. If anything, he seemed to be gathering confidence as he went along. "He's doing well," she whispered to Lavender. "Oh, he'll be sick soon," Lavender whispered back. "It's going to be horrible." When Bruce Bogtrotter had eaten his way through half the entire enormous cake, he paused for just a couple of seconds and took several deep breaths. The Trunchbull stood with her hands on her hips, glaring at him. "Get on with it," she shouted. "Eat it up." Suddenly, the boy let out a gigantic belch, which rolled around the assembly hall like thunder. Many of the audience began to giggle. "Silence," said the Trunchbull, shouting at the audience. The boy cut himself another thick slice and started eating it fast. There were no signs of flagging or giving up. He certainly did not look as though he was about to stop and cry out, I can't eat anymore, I'm going to be sick." He was still in there and hanging in there in the running. And now a subtle change was coming over the 250 watching children in the audience. Earlier on, they had sensed impending disaster. They had prepared themselves for an unpleasant scene, which the wretched boy, stuffed to the gills with chocolate cake, would have to surrender and beg for mercy, and then would have watched the triumphant Trunchbull forcing more and still more cake into the mouth of the poor gasping boy. But not a bit of it. Bruce Bogtrotter was 3/4 the way through, and still going strong. One sensed that he was almost beginning to enjoy himself. He had a mountain to climb, and he was jolly well going to reach the top or die in the attempt. What is more, he had now become very conscious of his audience, of how they were all silently rooting for him. This was nothing less than a battle between him and the mighty Trunchbull. Suddenly, someone shouted, "Come on, Brucey, you can do it!" The Trunchbull wheeled around and yelled, "Silence!" to the audience. The audience watched intently. They were thoroughly caught up in the contest. They were longing to start cheering, but they didn't dare. "I think he's going to make it," Matilda whispered. "I think so too," Lavender whispered back. "I wouldn't have believed it if anyone in the world could eat the whole of the cake that size." "The Trunchbull doesn't believe it either," Matilda whispered. "Look at her. She's turning redder and redder. Ooh, she's going to kill him if he wins." The boy was not slowing down. There is no doubt about that. But he kept pushing stuff into his mouth with the dogged perseverance of a long-distance runner who had sighted the finish line, knowing he must keep going. As the very last mouthful disappeared, a tremendous cheer rose from the audience, and the children were leaping to their chairs and clapping and shouting, "Well done, Brucey! Good for you, Brucey!" Oops, my book's falling apart. "You won a gold medal, Brucey!" Look at all those kids cheering him on that last fight. The Trunchbull stood motionless on the platform. Her great horsey face had turned the color of molten lava, and her eyes were glittering with fury. She glared at Bruce Bogtrotter, who was sitting in his chair like some huge overstuffed grub, replete, comatose, unable to move or speak. A fine sweat was beading down his forehead, but there was a grin of triumph on his face. Suddenly, the Trunchbull lunged forward, grabbed the large empty china platter on which the cake had rested, raised it high in the air, brought it down with a crash on top of the wretched Bruce Bogtrotter's head. The pieces flew all over the platform. The boy was now so full of cake, he was like a sack of wet cement, and you couldn't have hurt him with a sledgehammer. He simply shook his head a few times and went on grinning. "Go to blazes," the Trunchbull screamed and stormed off the stage. That was pretty cool. Chapter 12. Lavender. Now we're going to learn more about Lavender. In the middle of the first week, so this is only the first week still. Oh my goodness. In the middle of the first week of Matilda's first term, Miss Honey had said to the class, "I have some important news for you, so listen carefully. You too, Matilda, put the book down for a moment and pay attention." Small, eager faces looked up and listened. "It is the head mistress's custom," Miss Honey went on, "to take over the class for one period each week. She does this with every class in the school, and each class has a fixed day and a fixed time. Ours is always 2 o'clock on Thursday afternoons, immediately after lunch. So tomorrow at 2 o'clock, Miss Trunchbull will be taking over for me on one lesson. I shall be here as well, of course, but only as a silent witness. Is that understood? Yes, Miss Honey, they all chirped. A word of warning to you all, Miss Honey said. The headmistress is very strict about everything. Make sure your clothes are clean, your faces are clean, and your hands are clean. Speak only when spoken to. When she asks you a question, stand up at once before you answer it. Never argue with her. Never answer back. Never try to be funny. If you do, it will make her angry. And when the headmistress gets angry, oh, you'd better watch out. You can say that again, murmured Lavender quietly. I am quite sure, Miss Honey said, that she will be testing you on what you are meant to have learned this week, which is your 2's times table. So I strongly advise you swat up on it a bit at home tonight. Get your mother or father to hear you on it. What else will she test us on? Someone asked. Spelling, Miss Honey said. Try to remember everything you've learned these last few days. And one more thing, a jug of water and a glass must always be on the table here when the headmistress comes in. She never takes a lesson without it. Now, who will be responsible to see that's there? I will, Lavender said at once. Very well, Lavender, Miss Honey said. It will be your job to go to the kitchen and get a jug and fill it with water and put it on the table here with a clean, empty glass just before the lesson starts. What if the jug's not in the kitchen? Lavender asked. Oh, there are dozens of headmistresses' jugs and glasses in the kitchen, Miss Honey said. They are used all over the school. I won't forget, Lavender said. I promise I won't. Already, Lavender's scheming mind was going to the possibilities that this water jug job had opened up for her. She longed to do something truly heroic. She admired the older girl, Hortensia, to distraction for the daring deeds she had performed in the school. She also admired Matilda, who had sworn her to secrecy about the parrot job she had pulled off at home, and also the great hair oil switch she had to bleach her father's hair. It was her turn to become the heroine, if only she could come with a brilliant plot. On the way home from school that afternoon, she began to mull over various possibilities. And when at last the germ of a brilliant idea hit her, she began to expand on it and lay her plans with some kind of care, like the Duke of Wellington had done before the Battle of Waterloo. Admittedly, the enemy in this occasion was not Napoleon, but you would never have got anyone at Cruncham Hall to admit that the headmistress was a less formidable foe than that famous Frenchman. Great skill would have to be exercised, Lavender told herself, and great secrecy observed, if she was to come out of this alive. There was a muddy pond at the bottom of Lavender's garden, and this was the home to a colony of newts. The newt, although fairly common in English ponds, is not often seen by ordinary people because it's shy and a murky creature. It is an incredibly ugly, gruesome-looking animal, rather like a baby crocodile, but with a shorter head. It is quite harmless, but it doesn't look it. It is about 6 inches long and very slimy, with a greenish-gray skin on top and an orange-colored belly underneath. It is, in fact, an amphibian, which can live in or out of water. That evening, Lavender went to the bottom of the garden, determined to catch a newt. They are swift-moving animals and not easily to get hold of. She lay on the bank for a long time, waiting patiently until she spotted a whopper. Then, using her school hat as a net, she swooped in and caught it. She had lined her pencil box with pondweed, ready to receive the creature, but she discovered that it was not easy to get the newt out of her hat and into the pencil box. It wiggled and squirmed like a quicksilver, and apart from that, the box was only just long enough to take it. When she did get it at last, she had to be careful not to trap its tail in the lid when she slid it closed. A boy next door, called Rupert Entwistle, had told her if you chopped off a newt's tail, the tail stayed alive and grew another newt 10 times bigger than the first one. It could be the size of an alligator. Lavender didn't quite believe that, but just in case she was not prepared to risk it happening. And that is where we're going to leave off today. It's like cliffhanger every day. I'm sorry these are in the middle of the chapters. I hope to get back. We're so close to the end of one, but I just don't have the time. So maybe we can get back on track for tomorrow. We shall see. Tomorrow is Friday, so we'll do our pledge and motto. And then you'll be done for the week. And it'll be another weekend here already. Holy cow. Remember that we miss you and love you guys so much. It's weird. I have my moments of upset, but I seem to pull it together during these videotape times. So just know that we're thinking of you guys, and we can't wait to get back to school and see you. Hang in there. We love you guys. Bye.